It started with the dog. A low, steady growl in the middle of the night, just past 2 a.m., woke Amy first. Their beagle, Finn, was standing by the hallway closet, tail rigid, ears flat, staring at the wall as if it had spoken. Jake mumbled something and turned over, but Amy didn't. She watched, half frozen, half curious. Finn didn't move. Didn't bark. Just growled, like he was warning something not to come closer. By morning, she'd almost convinced herself it was nothing. Maybe a mouse. Maybe just a sound from the pipes. But a week later, the dog did it again. Same wall. Same time. That was the first real sign. Amy and Jake had moved in 3 weeks earlier. The house, a modest 2-bedroom rental on the edge of a wooded suburb in Minnesota, felt like a lucky break. Clean, quiet, and surprisingly affordable. Too affordable, maybe. Amy had joked about that during their first walkthrough. "How's this place still on the market?" she'd asked the agent. The woman had smiled a little too tightly. "People prefer newer builds. This one's got quirks." Quirks, it turned out, meant creaky floorboards, an old heating system that whined at night, and an oddly shaped linen closet that didn't quite match the rest of the hallway. But Jake didn't mind. He liked older homes. Said they had character. Amy didn't disagree. But from the moment they moved in, something felt slightly off. The house never seemed completely still. There were tiny things, barely noticeable at first. A draft that didn't match any window. A flicker in the hallway light, even with brand new bulbs. And sometimes, at night, the softest tapping. Like fingernails on drywall. Too light for plumbing. Too rhythmic for animals. She mentioned it once to Jake, but he brushed it off. "New environment," he said. "You're just adjusting." Maybe he was right. She wanted him to be right. The third time the dog growled, Amy got up and walked over. It was colder near the wall. Noticeably. She held her hand out, fingers just above the surface. The air felt wrong. Heavy. Like standing too close to a walk-in freezer. But when she touched the wall, it was just drywall. Hard. Dull. Solid. Still, Finn wouldn't stop staring. Not until Amy dragged him away and shut the bedroom door behind them. The next morning, she decided to check the wall from the other side. The closet shared a wall with the guest bedroom. They hadn't unpacked much in there yet, just a few sealed boxes and an unused lamp. She tapped the wall with her knuckle. Hollow. Then again. Still hollow. But then, just to the left of center, the sound changed. Slightly. Like there was space behind it. Amy pressed her ear to it. Nothing. That night, she dreamed of knocking. Faint, polite. Like someone asking to be let in. A few days later, Jake came home early to find Amy clearing out the guest room. "I think there's something behind the wall," she said. Jake raised an eyebrow. "You're serious?" She nodded. "It sounds like there's a space back there. Like a crawlspace or something." Jake set down his bag inside. "I'll check it out tomorrow." But she didn't wait. By the time he got home the next day, she'd already pried off part of the drywall. It crumbled easier than expected, like it had been hastily patched. Behind it, darkness. A narrow gap. Then, a door. A real door. Faded wood, with an old brass knob. No light switch, no visible wiring. Jake stood in the hallway, staring at it. "That's not on the floor plan." "No kidding," Amy said. They opened it together. It wasn't a crawlspace. It was a room. Maybe 8 feet across, no windows. A low ceiling. Inside, a thin mattress on the floor, covered with a stained gray sheet. A plastic folding chair. A broken alarm clock, blinking 12 o'clock. And a small stack of notebooks, warped from damp. The air smelled like mildew and dust and something harder to name. They didn't go inside. Not that night. Jake took photos, sent a few to the landlord. The reply came back hours later, "That's not part of the listed interior. I'll have someone inspect it next week." But Amy was already flipping through one of the notebooks. Most of the pages were filled with numbers and symbols, childlike drawings, scratched out lines. But in one of them, written in pencil, was a list of names. Names they didn't recognize. Except one. Near the bottom, Marnie. Jake froze when he saw it. "That was my grandmother's name," he said slowly. "No one ever spells it like that." Amy didn't answer. She was still holding the notebook. It was vibrating slightly in her hands. Or maybe her hands were shaking. Either way, something had changed. That night, they boarded the door shut. Just in case. But even then, even with the closet sealed and every light in the house on, Amy couldn't sleep. She kept hearing it, that faint, polite knocking. Like someone asking to be let in. And for the first time, she wasn't sure she wanted to know who. Amy didn't sleep that night. Every creak in the house felt closer to the door. Every shadow in the hallway felt heavier than the one before. Even Finn, their usually fearless little beagle, refused to leave the bedroom. He lay curled at her feet, staring at the sealed closet as if something on the other side was waiting. The morning light didn't help much. Jake tried to act normal. He brewed coffee. Scrolled through his phone. Talked about work like everything was fine. But Amy could tell, he wasn't sleeping either. His eyes were glassy. Jaw too tight. They avoided mentioning the room. By noon, the silence between them was louder than whatever might have been inside that wall. Amy was the first to break it. "I want to see what else is in there." Jake looked up, but didn't argue. They unboarded the door. The room smelled worse in daylight, mustier, heavier. Like water damage and rot and something that hadn't moved in years. Jake stood in the doorway while Amy stepped inside. The mattress was bare, sunken in the middle, stained in places she didn't want to think about. The chair was cheap plastic, one leg slightly cracked. And in the corner, barely visible behind a leaning stack of old books, was a small handheld recorder. Dusty. Taped shut. Amy picked it up. No batteries. Jake took it, popped the back open. Nothing inside. No corrosion, no serial number, no brand. Just a plain black recorder that looked older than it should have been. Then Amy turned to the notebooks. Most were water-damaged beyond recognition, pages stuck together, ink bled through. But one, wrapped in a torn plastic bag, had been better preserved. The cover was blank. Inside, the first few pages were filled with scribbles. Sentences crossed out. Symbols drawn and redrawn. Then came writing. A list of names. Some first names, some initials. Some with dates. Some with one word next to them, seen, safe, gone. And near the end, just like before, was Marnie. Amy's stomach tightened. Jake leaned over. "Is that another E. Thomas's?" Amy nodded. "That's my uncle's name." Jake didn't say anything for a long moment. Then he closed the notebook, too quickly. "Maybe it's a coincidence," he said. "It has to be." But neither of them believed it. They brought the notebooks into the main room. Jake laid them out across the dining table, snapping photos of each page. Amy made a list of the legible names. Only a handful were clear. She tried Googling a few. Got nothing. Local news, missing persons databases, no exact matches. Until one. S. Brody, 2011, gone. A man with that name had disappeared from northern Minnesota 14 years ago. Mid-30s. No family. No suspect. Cold case. Amy read the article twice. He'd been renting a small guest house in a suburb. No one ever found him. Jake stared at the screen. Could be unrelated. Amy didn't answer. That afternoon, she called the landlord. He didn't pick up. So she sent another message, attached the photos again, and added a simple question: "Are you sure you didn't know about this room?" No response. The next day, Jake called from work. Still no word? Amy shook her head, even though he couldn't see her. Nothing. Not even a read receipt. Jake sighed. He's probably avoiding it. If the room's not permitted, he could get in trouble. Amy looked at the hallway. Or maybe he's scared. That night, she decided to reseal the door. Not with boards this time, just thick furniture. A dresser wedged across the hallway, as if blocking something in. Jake didn't stop her. Before bed, she placed the recorder on her nightstand. Something about it bothered her. It felt too deliberate. Not like something someone forgot, it felt placed. Left. Just before falling asleep, she swore she heard it click. But when she opened her eyes, it was still off. She didn't mention it in the morning. Jake was already dressed, sipping coffee, staring at the weather forecast like it meant more than it did. Outside, a thick fog rolled in from the woods. Everything looked blurred. Like the world had faded slightly overnight. Amy sat down beside him. What if someone lived in there? She said softly. Jake didn't look up. When? I don't know. Before us. During. I mean, we don't know how long it's been there. We don't even know when the wall was built. He finally looked at her. Or if it ever was. Amy went quiet. Later that day, she called a contractor. Asked if someone could come out and inspect the wall, see if it had been added illegally. The man on the line asked for the address, then paused. That street? He said. Yeah. I've worked near there. Amy waited. Old properties, he said finally. Weird layouts. Lot of shortcuts. I'll see if I can send someone next week. But the way he said it didn't sound like a scheduling issue. It sounded like a warning. Amy hung up, stared at the hallway. The dog was sitting there again. Silent. Motionless. Staring at the closet. The argument started small. Jake didn't close the hallway door. Amy reminded him. He shrugged. She asked again, sharper this time. He snapped back, something about her being paranoid. She accused him of not taking any of it seriously. And just like that, it turned into shouting. By the time they stopped, they were in different rooms. No apology. No conversation. Just a closed door between them and a silence that felt deeper than the house itself. It wasn't just the room. It was everything. Since they'd opened that wall, the house had changed. Or maybe they had. That night, Amy slept on the couch. Finn curled up beside her. Jake didn't come out of the bedroom. The next morning, the recorder was missing from the nightstand. Amy found it in the hallway. Sitting upright in front of the closet door. As if someone had set it there. She didn't touch it. Instead, she took a photo and texted Jake. Did you move this? He replied 10 minutes later. What? No. You didn't? She didn't answer. That same afternoon, Amy decided to talk to the neighbors. The couple directly next door, Linda and Carl, had lived on the street for nearly 30 years. Retired, friendly, the kind of people who still brought over welcome cookies. Amy knocked on their door and explained, carefully, that she and Jake were curious about the house's history. Any stories? Any previous tenants they should know about? Linda's smile faltered almost immediately. You're in the Stevenson place, right? She asked. Amy nodded. Carl stepped forward. Nice little house. Quiet. Kind of, too quiet. Amy asked what he meant. Carl glanced at his wife, then back at Amy. There was a guy who lived there alone before you. Quiet type. Didn't come out much. Sometimes we'd see him through the blinds. Just sitting. Didn't look like he had furniture. No lights on at night. Thought he was a squatter at first. Amy's hands went cold. She asked if they ever talked to him. Once, Linda said. He came to the door asking if we had an extension cord. Said his outlets were too loud. Whatever that meant. Looked nervous. Kept looking over his shoulder. We never saw him again after that. Do you remember his name? Amy asked. Carl shook his head. Never got it. Linda added, I think the cops showed up a month later. After he was gone. Gone. That word again. Amy thanked them and walked back slowly. Inside the house, the lights in the hallway flickered when she stepped past the closet. The recorder was gone. She called Jake immediately. I didn't move it, he said before she could even speak. Swear to God. Then who did? He didn't have an answer. Amy wanted to leave. That evening, over dinner, she brought it up. We don't have to stay here. Jake stared at his plate. We signed a lease. We can break it. He didn't respond. Amy tried again. I'm not imagining this. I never said you were. You're acting like none of this matters. Jake finally looked at her. It's not that it doesn't matter, he said. It's that. I don't think it wants us to leave. Amy blinked. What? I don't know. Just, he rubbed his temples. I feel weird when I'm outside. Like I'm being pulled back. I keep dreaming about the hallway. The closet. I feel better when I'm here. Amy pushed back her chair and stood. That's not normal. Jake didn't argue. That night, Amy couldn't sleep. She sat up in bed, scrolling through forums, real estate archives, anything that might give her answers. One post, buried deep on a housing subreddit, mentioned a house in their zip code with illegal construction. Someone wrote about finding an extra space in their basement that wasn't on the blueprint. The post had no replies. No follow-up. She checked the username. Deleted. Amy closed her laptop. Something about the house didn't feel lived in. It felt watched. She walked down the hallway, barefoot, every floorboard creaking under her step. She stopped in front of the sealed closet. The dresser still blocked it. The air felt colder here. The kind of cold that came from inside walls. She placed her hand on the surface. Felt a faint vibration. Not noise. Not sound. Just pressure. Like something was waiting. In the morning, the dresser had been pushed 2 inches to the side. Amy checked the security camera Jake had installed by the front door. No one had entered or left. She checked the footage from the hallway camera. At 3:17 a.m., the screen glitched. Just static. For exactly 1 minute. When the feed returned, the dresser was in a new position. Jake said it must have been a system error. Amy didn't reply. She was starting to believe the house had its own plans. And that opening that wall didn't wake something up. It just gave it permission. Amy didn't tell Jake about the dresser. Not at first. She wanted to believe it was nothing. That maybe she'd misremembered its position. That maybe Finn nudged it in the night. That maybe she was just tired. But none of those excuses held for long. Because the next day, something else happened. In the bathroom mirror, after a long, hot shower, a message appeared in the steam. Just 5 words, scrawled like a fingertip had written them long ago, "I see you, M." She froze. Only her father used to call her that. Not even Jake did. It wasn't a nickname she ever mentioned, not on social media, not out loud. Just a childhood thing, long buried. The kind of detail no stranger could ever guess. She stood there, towel clutched to her chest, watching the message fade as the steam cleared. Then she ran to find Jake. He came quickly, looked at the mirror. It was blank. "Are you sure?" "I didn't write it." "Could someone else have?" "Who?" "You?" Jake didn't answer. Later, she checked her phone. Searched her own name, old usernames, old posts. Nothing. No trace of M. Not online. Not anywhere. That night, she refused to shower. Jake tried to calm her down, said it was probably a leftover mark from someone years ago. Maybe the bathroom hadn't been properly cleaned. Maybe heat reactivated something in the glass. Amy didn't respond. But in her head, she was already packing. The moment came when she tried to erase the list of names she'd written from the notebook, the ones she was tracking. She'd rewritten them on paper, highlighted the matches, the patterns. But when she opened her notebook, the pages were gone. Not torn out. Not erased. Gone. The binding was intact. No marks. No missing numbers. Just a gap. As if those pages had never existed. She flipped to the back of the notebook. Someone had written something there. "You're looking too hard." That night, she confronted Jake. "I'm leaving tomorrow," she said. He looked up from his phone, slowly. "We can't." "We can." "I'm not staying another night here." "I mean, we can't." Amy's voice sharpened. "What does that mean?" Jake looked different. Pale. Distant. Like he was there, but already fading. "I think it needs us here," he said. Amy stood. "Listen to yourself." He reached for her hand, gently. "You don't hear it?" "Hear what?" Jake didn't answer. She pulled away. That night, Amy lay awake on the couch, lights on, TV buzzing in the background with some late-night infomercial no one was watching. The dog refused to sleep anywhere near the hallway. He stayed beside her, shivering slightly, ears flat. Around 3 a.m., she heard a soft creak. Not the usual kind. Not wood shifting. Not pipes. This one was deliberate. Like footsteps. She sat up slowly. The hallway light flickered. She grabbed her phone, turned on the flashlight, and walked toward the noise. The closet door, the one they'd sealed, was open again. The dresser was back in place. But the door itself stood ajar. Just an inch. Amy stepped closer. Inside, it was dark. Still. The mattress was there. The chair. The books. But the recorder was on the mattress now. With a pair of headphones plugged in. She didn't remember putting it there. She didn't remember seeing the headphones before. She turned and backed away. Slammed the closet door shut. This time, she didn't try to seal it. She wanted out. Jake was awake when she came into the bedroom. "I need to leave," she said. He sat up slowly. "I know." In the morning, Amy packed a bag. Jake stayed in bed, eyes open, unmoving. She kissed him on the forehead. "I'll call you from Beth's." He didn't answer. She walked out the door just before 8 a.m. and didn't look back. It was supposed to be one night. Amy packed light, just a weekend bag and Finn's leash. She needed air. Needed to be around someone else. Needed to remember what normal felt like. Her best friend Beth lived 20 minutes away. Suburbs. Light walls. No closets that hummed in the dark. She didn't explain much when she arrived, just said they'd found something weird in the house. Beth didn't ask. She didn't need to. One look at Amy's face was enough. Amy slept for 13 straight hours. When she woke up, she had 12 missed calls from Jake. None of them included a message. She called back. No answer. Texted. No response. Told herself it was fine. But as the day passed and her calls kept going unanswered, her chest started to tighten. Jake wasn't the type to ignore her. Especially not now. By evening, she was driving back. Finn whined the entire way. He didn't want to go back either. The house looked normal from the outside. Lights off. Mail still in the box. No sign of anything wrong. Amy knocked before using her key. No answer. She opened the door. Jake's phone was on the kitchen table. His keys were in the bowl by the door. His shoes were by the mat. His jacket was still on the hook. But Jake wasn't there. Amy checked every room. The bed was made. Dresser untouched. Bathroom clean. Closet closed. The guest room, the one with the hidden door, was exactly how she left it. Or so it seemed. Because when she moved the dresser, she realized something was off. The wall had been patched. Roughly. Sloppily. The same spot where they'd broken through weeks ago was now covered again. Drywall smeared hastily over the edges, like someone had tried to hide it in a hurry. But Jake couldn't have done it. He didn't know how to do that kind of work. Amy backed away, heart hammering. She called the police. When the officers arrived, they did the usual questions. When was the last time you saw him? Was there a fight? Any medications? Amy explained it all. The argument. The strange room. The name on the mirror. The male officer kept a neutral face. The younger one looked skeptical. They walked the house with her. Took some notes. Opened closets. Checked locks. Then they inspected the guest room. Amy pointed to the patched wall. There was a room behind this. The officers exchanged a glance. They tapped the wall. Solid. No hollow sound. No seam. Amy stepped forward and pressed her hand against it. Still cold. Still wrong. He was sleeping in there, she said. The older officer nodded slowly. We'll file a report. Might take a couple days. Amy looked at him. That's it? He shrugged. No sign of forced entry. No signs of struggle. No evidence of a crime. He wouldn't just leave. The officer gave a practiced smile. They usually don't. Until they do. They left 20 minutes later. Amy locked the door behind them. Sat down on the couch. And started crying. 3 days passed. No calls. No leads. No sightings. Jake's bank account stayed untouched. His car was still in the driveway. Amy called the landlord again. No answer. She went online and searched his name. Found only one listing, no photo, no contact besides the number she already had. She emailed the leasing company. They told her the property was handled by an independent agent. Someone who'd apparently taken over after the previous owner died. Amy froze. She wrote back, when did the previous owner pass away? The reply came the next morning. March 2011. Same year as S. Brody. The man from the notebook. Amy opened the wall again. She didn't care anymore. Hammer, chisel, bare hands. It didn't matter. The drywall came off in chunks. The dust made her cough. But when she cleared the last piece, there was nothing. No door. No room. Just insulation and wood framing. As if the space never existed. Amy sat down on the floor, covered in plaster and silence. She stayed there for a long time. Finn lay next to her. Neither of them moved. That night, she left the house again. Took only her bag and the dog. But this time, she didn't say she'd be back. She just closed the door and walked away. She called the police 2 more times that week. They said the same thing. Adults are allowed to disappear. But she knew better. Jake didn't leave. He was still in that house. Somewhere. Amy didn't go back to the house. She left everything behind except for Finn and a laptop. For 3 days she stayed at Beth's, barely sleeping, clicking through site after site, newspaper after newspaper. She didn't know what she was looking for. Just something. Some thread to pull. Some name to recognize. Some hint that Jake wasn't just gone. She started with the notebook. The names. The dates. The ones that had the word "gone" next to them. She tried matching them to local records, cold cases, property reports, anything. Most came up empty. But 2 had faint matches. One was just initials, MC, 2006, gone. There had been a missing person in Duluth with those initials. Another one, A. Hill, 2015, seen, matched a woman who was later found alive but had claimed she'd lost weeks in some kind of blackout. It was all too vague. Nothing direct. But it was enough to keep Amy digging. She found a digital archive of property records across the state. Started cross-referencing addresses with former owners, looking for anything tied to renovations, complaints, or unpermitted construction. It was mind-numbing. But then she found something. A house 3 towns over. Built in 1979. Sold in 2009. Then again in 2011. In the sale report, there was a line buried in the fine print, "Non-permitted internal structure removed." She looked up the address on Google Maps. It was identical. Same single-story frame. Same layout. Same hallway window. She stared at the screen for a long time. Then searched for the owners. In 2011, it had belonged to someone named Brody. S. Brody. Amy's throat tightened. She opened a news article. One she'd already read a week ago but hadn't connected back until now. It said he was a loner. Rented. No friends. Just vanished one night. No signs of violence. The neighbors barely remembered him. But the article had a photo. The house behind the police tape was the same. Same paint. Same shape. Same everything. Amy sat back in her chair. This wasn't just about her house. There were others. She found another post, this time on a conspiracy forum. Dated 2018. A user describing a house with an extra wall, where their dog kept barking. The post was filled with ridicule in the comments. The OP never responded again. The username had been deleted. Amy scrolled through more forums. Looked up permits in other counties. Every now and then, she'd find a keyword buried in legal language, unlisted room, structural correction, irregular blueprint. It was like chasing shadows. But the pattern was there. Always the same kind of house. Built in the same decade. Quiet neighborhoods. Cheap rent. Like someone wanted them to be found. Or maybe, used. Beth came into the room at one point, carrying coffee. She looked at Amy's screen. "You need to sleep," she said softly. "I can't." Beth hesitated. Then asked, "Do you think he's still in there?" Amy didn't answer right away. "I think, if I stop looking, he won't be anywhere." That night, Amy emailed one of the permit offices. Asked for blueprints of their rental home. She got a reply the next morning. No internal modifications listed since original construction. But she'd seen the wall. She'd been inside the room. She looked back at the photo Jake had taken the day they found the door. It was gone from her phone. She searched cloud backups, messages, emails. Nothing. Then she checked the folder where she'd saved all her notes. The notebook scans. The list of names. The photos. All gone. Just a single file remained. A .txt file. She opened it. Inside was one sentence. Some rooms were never meant to be found. Amy stared at the screen, the cursor blinking like a heartbeat. She closed the laptop. And started packing. This time, not to run. But to go back. The house was exactly as she left it. Quiet. Still. Too still. The kind of still that feels like something is listening. Amy parked across the street and sat in the car for a long time, watching the windows. The curtains in the guest room didn't move. No light inside. No sound. She didn't expect Jake to come walking out. She wasn't here for that. Not anymore. Finn whined softly in the back seat. Amy reached back and touched his collar. "We're not staying long." She stepped out into the cold. The key still worked. The lock clicked like nothing had changed. But everything had. The air inside was stale. Heavy. The kind of air that settles when no one's been breathing it for too long. Or something else has. She didn't bother calling Jake's name. She just walked straight down the hall. To the room. The closet. Still sealed. She didn't try to open it. Not yet. She walked to the kitchen. Sat down. Opened her laptop. There was one last name in the notes she hadn't followed. It wasn't from the notebook. It was from a forgotten blog post, archived years ago, found through a dead link she'd saved by accident. A freelance journalist who'd written a short series about missing square footage in small-town housing markets. He'd tracked 3 houses with undocumented rooms. The last one matched her layout exactly. The author's name, Daniel Kerr. The blog hadn't been updated since 2016. The final post ended mid-sentence. No goodbye. No sign-off. Just stopped. Amy tried searching him. Twitter, deleted. Facebook, inactive. No recent mentions. No obituary either. But one thread on a local journalist forum mentioned his name. Anyone ever hear from Daniel Kerr again? He was chasing that real estate cult thing before he dropped off. No replies. She Googled, Daniel Kerr missing. Nothing official. But on page 4 of search results, a cached version of an old article. Kerr was investigating housing anomalies in multiple counties. Friends say he became obsessed, and one line in bold. Before he vanished, he told a colleague, "If I disappear, start with the closets." Amy leaned back in the chair. The fridge hummed behind her. The only sound in the house. She opened the closet. No resistance this time. No board. No dresser. Just the wall. She touched it. Still cold. Still vibrating. Still waiting. Amy went into the garage. Found the tools. Hammer. Crowbar. Mask. She got to work. It took 3 hours. sweat, dust, splinters. But finally, the wall cracked. And behind it, again, the door. Same as before. Same faded wood. Same brass knob. She opened it. Inside, the same mattress. Same chair. Same stale air. And a notebook. Not the old one. A new one. Sitting upright. Perfectly clean. First page blank. Amy sat down. Opened it. Second page, writing. Different handwriting. Room 1, Brody. Room 2, Kerr. Room 3, Thomas. She stared at the last line. Jake's last name. Below it, a date. The day he disappeared. She turned the page. A list. Not names this time. Words. Mirrors. Vents. TV static. Water. Each one had a dash next to it. Only one had something written beside it. Water, opens at 3:17 a.m. Amy looked up. The bathroom was just down the hall. She walked there, slowly. The mirror was clear. Lights bright. Everything normal. But the faucet dripped. One drop. Then another. Then it stopped. Amy waited. At 3:17 a.m., the mirror flickered. Just once. Like a ripple in glass. And then she heard it. A voice. Muffled. Behind the mirror. Not words. Not yet. Just, someone. Waiting. Amy didn't move. The voice behind the mirror wasn't loud. It didn't even sound close. But it was there. Low. Fractured. Like it was traveling through water, or wires, or the wrong kind of air. She leaned forward, just enough to hear. A single word. M. She stepped back. The mirror flickered again. Not a reflection. Not light. Movement. Something inside. Like a shape leaning forward. Or pressing back. She closed the bathroom door. Ran to the closet. The door was still there. The notebook still on the floor. She grabbed it, flipped pages. No new entries. No new names. The list still ended with Jake. She wrote something on the next page. Her own name. Date. The ink held. She waited. It didn't disappear. Yet. That night, she slept in the guest room. On the mattress. Not because she wanted to. But because the rest of the house didn't feel like hers anymore. At 3:17, she woke up. Not to a sound. To the absence of it. The fridge was off. The heater was off. Even the wind outside felt cut off. She sat up. The notebook was open beside her. New page. New words. Stay still. She didn't move. Didn't breathe. Something was walking in the hallway. Not steps exactly. Pressure. Weight. Like the floor remembered being walked on. And then it stopped. Right outside the room. Amy turned off the lamp. Total darkness. Then, knocking. Soft. Polite. 3 times. Then a voice. M. She couldn't answer. She didn't trust her own voice. A minute passed. Then another. She turned the light back on. Opened the door. The hallway was empty. But on the wall, written in faint pencil, was a sentence, "Don't let it close." She ran back to the hidden room. Opened the door. It was still there. Still wrong. Still real. She stepped inside. This time, there was a sound. Not a voice. Breathing. Soft. Slow. Rhythmic. Coming from behind the wall. Not the entrance wall. The back wall. Amy walked to it. Touched it. Warm. Then, a vibration. Low. Rising. Almost like a growl. She pressed her ear against the wall. And heard Jake. Not calling. Not panicking. Whispering. Repeating the same thing. Over and over. Don't forget me. Amy backed away. Turned to leave. But the door, gone. Just a wall again. Drywall. Smooth. Seamless. She turned back to the notebook. Still on the floor. Open to a new page. 2 lines. If you leave now, you'll forget. If you stay, you'll remember. She picked up the pen. Hesitated. Wrote one word. Why? The ink bled through. Dripped onto the floor. She looked down. The message on the ground, drawn in liquid black, because remembering is how it stays alive. The room began to shake. Not loud. Just, unstable. Like the walls didn't know where they were. Amy stepped back. Everything around her dimmed. Colors lost their edges. Shadows disconnected from the objects casting them. She grabbed the notebook. Ran forward. Straight into the wall. And fell, not through. But out. Into the hallway. The real one. Lights flickering. Smoke detector blinking. Finn barking at the base of the stairs. It was morning. And the door was gone. No opening. No cut in the wall. No sign it had ever been there. Amy held the notebook tight. It was blank. Every page. Except the very last one. Her name. And under it, in tiny writing, 1 room left. Amy moved out the same day. Left the furniture. Left the dishes. Left everything but the dog and the notebook. She didn't tell the leasing company. She didn't try to get her deposit back. She just walked away. Beth offered her a place again. She said yes this time. But she didn't unpack. She didn't sleep much either. The notebook stayed at her side like a splinter she couldn't dig out. Every day she checked it. First casually. Then obsessively. Every page. Front to back. Hoping something would appear. Or disappear. But it stayed blank. Until one morning, when she found a new word. Top of the first page. Just one word, written in her own handwriting. Hello. She hadn't written it. She stared at it for almost an hour. Turned the page. Blank. Next page. Blank. Next, a map. Hand-drawn. Rough. Faint grid lines. One tiny circle in the center, labeled, room. She didn't recognize the layout. Not her old house. Not any house she knew. It looked more like a complex. Or a system. At the bottom of the map, a word. Built. Not written. Stamped. Like it had come from a form. Amy tried to trace it digitally. No results. She went to the library. Asked about local developments. Floor plans. Anything that might look like what she'd seen. The clerk asked for more detail. She gave none. Then she found it. Not the map. Not the layout. The word. In a 1972 planning document. A short-lived architectural startup called Built Modular. Specialized in prefab housing units. Claimed to be revolutionary. Efficient. Standardized. Only made 8 homes before going bankrupt. The 8th was never confirmed to be built. Amy found the original design blueprint. Identical to her old house. Same rooms. Same hallway. Same closet. The document included a contractor's name. She Googled him. Died in 1993. No survivors. But there was a scanned interview from a trade magazine. A single quote. It was a mistake. That room wasn't supposed to be accessible. Amy didn't blink for a long time. She printed everything. Brought it home. Opened the notebook. Placed the papers next to it. The next day, they were gone. Not stolen. Just missing. The only thing left was a new page. One sentence. You can stop now. But she couldn't. Jake was still gone. And the notebook was still writing back. She started testing it. Asking questions. Leaving pages blank on purpose. Writing times. Dates. Sometimes, nothing happened. Sometimes, she woke up to answers. Too late. Already opened. Ask better questions. Then, one night, it stopped again. No new words. No movement. Weeks passed. Amy started to hope. Maybe it was over. Maybe the house was an infection, and she was healing. She tried to forget. Started sleeping more. Started making coffee without checking corners. Started walking the dog after dark again. And then, one morning, her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. No voice. Just silence. But not empty. The kind of silence that listens. Then, a sound. Click. Like a recorder. Then Jake's voice. One word. M. Amy froze. Jake? Click. Silence again. The call ended. She stared at her phone. It had no record of the number. No call logged. She opened the notebook. Blank. Then, slowly, one new line at the bottom of the last page. The room doesn't stay in the house. Amy didn't sleep that night. The next morning, she walked into the hallway. Her hallway. Beth's house. Nothing unusual. Except the air. Colder than it should be. Heavier. And the dog standing still. Staring at the linen closet. The same way he had, all those weeks ago. Amy didn't move. Didn't speak. She just listened. And from behind the door, she heard it. A single, polite knock. Then M.